Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Unsung Heroes. This is episode number 11, race 11, of course, of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross season, Ford Field in Detroit. Massive shakeup in the 450 point standings, while things stay the same as their recent trends in the 250 class. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are listening from. Don't forget the show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, and YouTube. Spread the love, spread the word, share this with your fellow motocross and supercross fans. And thanks for joining me once again this week. We are starting out this week on the Unsung Heroes with an interview, a career best finish for one of the top veteran privateers in the 250 division. Joining us from the MX6 Racing Kawasaki team, P5 in the 250 East class on Saturday night in Ford Field. Please welcome Henry Miller to the Unsung Heroes. What's up, man? Congrats on the career best, and I'm sure you have to be stoked.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was a good night. I'm happy with it. I mean, honestly, I believe that that's where I belong anyways. So it's not like a super big shock to me. It's just everything kind of aligned mentally and all that good stuff. So it was a good night. We just need to kind of keep that momentum rolling and just allow the mind to be, all freed up and just let everything connect again here on these coming weekends. I think we got five East races left. Well, I guess East, West, and East Coast races. So, yeah, just go back to work, do what we do during the week, and get ready for the next one.
First question, as always, go ahead and take me through your weekend. Obviously, Detroit was a little tricky for some people. There were guys going down left and right, but you kept things upright. You were solid, steady in the main event, brought her home in fifth. Take me through the day, qualifying, heat race, main event. Talk about some of the track changes and how things developed throughout the night because obviously starts out nice and fresh, then gets beat up by the time you guys get to the main event. But talk about your day start to finish and how you ended up getting to that P5.
First qualifier, I think, was pretty good. Just needed a few tweaks, not on the bike, just line choices, kind of a mental, thought process type of way. I think I was like 10th, come out qualifying two, just putting down some solid laps. Obviously, the track seemed to be a little more beat in. That second one, I think, obviously the whoops were, they don't fix them between practices. So that was a little more challenging, but made some changes to my line choices, and it seemed to help me out and allow me to get a better time. Putting me, I think, P8, and then yeah, go to the gate fourth in the heat race, I believe it was. Got a little wheel spin actually on the grate and didn't give me the best drive. So the start wasn't pretty, but we made some passes in that heat race and made myself up to, I believe, sixth place. Which is good. That's a good consistent day for myself, and the momentum just kind of kept rolling. So I was feeling good. Come the main event, line up, and made a little more of, I would say, a risky decision on where I was going to line up. I told myself that I was going to plan to probably start more outside that weekend just with how the first turn was. But last second split decision, we decided to go inside next to Dundee and got an elbow on him. And yeah, just got around and snuck around the inside of the gate. And it just panned out really well. I think I came out like eighth or ninth on lap one. And, some guys had some problems, few crashed and whatnot, and it's just part of racing. So I just took full advantage of them. Obviously, moved through the pack and was just gelling with the track the whole time. It was good. The bike was working really well. The track was good, and I liked the whoops. I don't know if everybody did, but they were built maybe a little bit bigger this weekend, which in my I believe they should be, because then you don't have people just going in there and sending it. and getting at higher speeds. So I think they were a little more technical, which was good. I really like some more technical, bigger whoops, and it just played in my favor. So it helped me out. Just pick through the track, the whoops, different lines throughout the whole main event, and yeah, we just rode it into a fifth. Didn't know what place I was in the whole race. No positions on the board. Kind of like it. It just keeps you. I would say you don't start fixating on what position or get overwhelmed like, oh wow, I'm in fifth, like, and get tight or feel pressure or anything. So obviously I knew I wasn't in the lead, so there was guys in front of me. So just keep clicking off my good laps and keep trying to push forward and try to catch up to the people in front of me, or just ride a good race, ride my own race. And it all panned out real well and played in my favor. So it was good. It was nice to finally execute what I work towards each and every day throughout the week and all that in off season. So it's yeah, I'm happy with it, and just see if we can't do it again.
I mean, overall, it was a banner night for MX6 racing. Of course, you go up there, P5, first year Supercross team, and they're already setting a top 5 finish. Derek Kelly goes out, wins the LCQ, gets in the top 10. Marsh should have been in the top 10, ends up finishing 12th, but all three guys with really good finishes. I mean, how was the morale at the truck after the race? Because it had to be a very good scene, had to be some sort of great feeling at the truck because, like I mentioned, I mean, I've talked to Derek earlier in the season and he talked to me about helping build the program. And of course, yourself, Derek, Marshall were all on the team last summer helping get things and the foundation built when you guys were racing the outdoors. And of course, yourself and Marshall Welton raced the playoffs some. But talk about the vibe of the team after the race because I'm sure there were a lot of happy faces in the MX6 pits.
Yeah, I mean everybody was happy. Two top tens, first top five. Marshall, he was running. I believe he was running in the top 10 for pretty much the whole race. Just making a few mistakes, which I mean it's racing, it happens. It's frustrating, but I think at the end of the day, all in all, everybody was happy. As far as team wise, they were ecstatic to see that we're making such good progress. I would say in such a short period of time. We switched bike brands. We got a team manager. It's more of a established looking team now. Versus this summer we were doing it a little more just. We had like a truck trailer type setup and some mechanics, and yeah, we went racing, but it wasn't as structured and all that. So it's good to see that we're making this progress so early, and we're still actually learning things and still kind of building the program. So it's awesome. We're all happy to be a part of building this program, and we all can't wait to see what it's going to look like and how everything is going to be working in a year from now. Just once you get a year down, a lot of things click and you learn a lot of things just as riders, as mechanics and all that, how people work together, bike setup, yada yada yada. Just so many different pieces to the puzzle that I believe with time get easier, and just you build confidence off that, and the momentum just starts rolling. So I think everybody was happy, and we just need to keep showing people that MX6 racing is, we're a new team, but we're here, and we're gonna keep building off this and keep the momentum rolling.
I know you mentioned this finish is more of where you want to be, and of course, top 5. Everybody dreams about fighting in that range for podiums, for wins, for top 5s. But in terms of your career, you've been racing for a while now, turned pro 2016. You have a lot of experience under your belt, a lot of top 10s, now a top 5, arena cross wins, pro motocross whole shots. Where does this rank in terms of some of your favorite or greatest career accomplishments?
I would definitely say it's obviously it's up towards top. Like my whole shot at Millville. That was super cool. Not a lot of people have whole shot at a pro motocross event, so I would say that's still one of probably my favorite memories. I would also say It's right there with at Millville, home race. I ran second for quite a while in one of the motos, I believe in 19, and ended up fifth in that moto. Like, so it's up there. It's really cool, but I also think that it's it's another check mark off on the accomplishments that I would like to have as a racer, but they don't define who I am. So I think it's awesome that I got that now. Kind of almost push it to the side and keep on working. And just keep doing what we're doing, and don't let it define me for if there's good or bad in the future.
You talked about the team setup, of course, big rig this year, getting Ollie Stone over at team manager, a guy who's worked as a mechanic at places like Pro Circuit Kawasaki. I talked to Derek a little bit about the added legitimacy of the program, but in terms of working with Ollie, a guy who has so much experience being around championship guys at Pro Circuit Kawasaki and around these factory organizations, working with him, what does that bring to a young team like MX6 when you have a guy that has that experience and knows what it takes, whether it's resources or setups or something like that? How is it to work with an established guy to be able to continue to grow the team, not just as riders and mechanics, but everything overall?
I mean, I think it brings obviously it brings a good value to the team. Like have somebody that knows all that stuff, leading the way, leading the charge, and I think it just gives you a little bit more confidence to know you're in good hands. He's not going to lead you down the wrong road or a bad road. It takes a little bit more. I'd say it takes some of the pressure off for sure, because it takes he's been a mechanic and he's been a team manager, so he knows the ins and outs of a dirt bike. So his input is very valuable. We're not just shooting from the hip. Everything's calculated. Everything's got a ballpark of where we want to be and how to get there. So I believe that's just adding confidence to us riders, honestly, and even like the mechanics that we have. Like, they know they're not going to get steered the wrong way, and they know they have a really good leader behind them. And I think I mean, it's awesome. Some of our mechanics have worked with him before. Others, I mean, are just he's been around for so long, so he's kind of like a fan, but it's really cool to be involved with somebody that's been at the top of our sport as a mechanic, and let him kind of lead us down the road and see where it takes us.
You're a part of the troll training program, of course, fellow Minnesota native Alex Martin running things, John Wessling helping him out as well, but of course, training such an important part of preparation for you guys during the week, whether it's on the bike, off the bike. So many things go into the weekend for you guys to be able to compete and achieve the highest level of success. Talk a little bit about the troll training program, how long you've been with it, and talk about some of the benefits of it, because I know some of these racers out there have been using troll training, some other programs, of course, as well. But what about troll training has really helped you find that extra level and slowly go from, sometimes hitting that top 10 level, but it seems like the last few years you've really been able to hone that in and go top 10s consistently, and now, of course, breaking into that top 5 level?
Yeah. So I've worked with Alex and John over at Troll Training for, I believe, let's see, 4 years, maybe 5 years. Can't put an exact number on that, but I've known Alex and John for a long time. John used to race locally back when I was a little kid. He was at the track. Obviously, he's older, so I seen him around, seen him, talk to him, yada yada yada. Obviously, kind of looked up to Alex, as I was always at Millville. They own Spring Creek, so it was, yeah, I always kind of looked up to them, and to have somebody that, not with just his knowledge but his experience, he's done it himself. He understands the struggles and kind of what's needed, when it's needed, how to go about things. Same with John, like his knowledge mixed with Alex's experience is just top of the line. It really is. It takes all the guessing out of it for myself. I can just lean on them for advice if it's riding, training, eating, sleeping, exercising, just all that. They have so much knowledge, and even with like traveling, like how to go about it to get the most when you travel, have the least amount of stress on your body, and how to approach it the best for the weekend or whatever you have going on. So it's amazing. Can't thank those guys enough. They help out quite a bit, and it's an awesome program. If you've ever thought about trying troll training, I would say go for it. Multiple different packages is always very nice as well. You don't have to be spending all your money. You know, if you're tight on funds, and it makes it easy. It makes it affordable. Because obviously, as most of us know, things are expensive. Training's very expensive, and what you get out of it for, you get your bang for your buck for sure. And yeah, can't thank those guys enough.
We're going into the second of three East-West showdowns this weekend, and a couple weeks ago, Birmingham, you put it right into the show, into the main event. Got a little bit of help from Evan Ferry out there, but you put her in regardless. Another check off the box for the MX6 team. Of course, now top 5, top 10s under the belt. LCQ wins. East-West showdown starts. We've got several East rounds coming up right in a row. Another East-West this weekend, but you have a couple other standalone East Coast rounds. You got a Triple Crown coming up in Cleveland. Over these next few weeks, how do you think you can continue to build on this top 5 finish? Sometimes I feel like for riders, when they achieve career best, it's almost harder to get up there and answer the bell the second time. But for you guys, what are you looking for out of the next couple weekends to really keep building as an organization and just steadily climb higher and higher?
Yeah, I don't think there's any secret sauce to it or anything. I think we're just gonna keep clicking away during the weeks. Keep grinding, keep doing the off the bike stuff, keep going to the track, getting our laps in, our sprints in, our starts in, all that good stuff. I don't think there's really a secret to it. I think some people can overcomplicate it, and it can get you spun out or heading down the wrong road. So I think we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We know it works, and we just got to keep showing up on race day and keep performing. I think that's really all there is to it.
One last question. In terms of the team setup, of course, last year during the summer, yourself, Derek, Marshall, all raced on 450s. You went back to the 250 for SMX. Now running 250 East Supercross, but what do the outdoor plans look like for the MX6 racing team? Will you be staying on 250s? Are there 450s in your guys' future? Again, I'd love to hear because I think either way you guys go, all three of you guys are established racers, definitely capable of scoring points at a high rate in the outdoor season, and all of you guys have, whether you've been in the 450 class or 250 class. But I'd love to hear maybe what class we can expect to see the MX6 crew in this summer.
Well, I mean, I can't speak 100% on what the other riders will be riding or what class or that kind of stuff. I'm not 100% sure on all that. But for myself, I will be running the 250 class outdoors for the first time since 2016. I will be dropping back down on the 250 come outdoors. Actually, it'd be staying on the 250, not dropping back down. So I think it's really cool. I'm very excited for it. It's a new challenge, new opportunity, and we're gonna get a hold of it and take off running. And hopefully, my teammates do the same thing. Either way, no matter what we're riding, we're gonna all give it 100%, and we're gonna bust our butts and leave it all out on the track and do the best we can.
Henry Miller on the Unsung Heroes this week after his career best finish. Thanks once again for taking the time for this interview. And before we conclude, go ahead, give a shout out to some of your sponsors. Of course, we've mentioned the MX6 Racing crew several times, but shout out those who are supporting you, helping you get to the races, and also feel free to plug your social medias so people can go follow you after listening to the show.
Yeah, go on over to Instagram, Henry Miller or Henry_Miller. I believe it is still 55. Obviously, just type my name in there. It'll bring me up, and follow along for the rest of the journey. Got to give it up to MX6 Racing, Sons of Our Fathers, Stapes Suspension, O'Neill 60, EKS, CTI, Paver Motorsports. There's so many people that are helping us out. Like, it's so hard to put a list together of such great people that backed us and support us and just allow us to do this. So everybody, anyone, we appreciate it as riders, not just myself. Yeah, keep supporting us, and hopefully, we get to meet some of you guys in the future at maybe one of the closer events to somebody's house. So thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. And yeah.
No problem, man. Thanks once again. This has been Henry Miller on the Unsung Heroes. Best of luck this weekend in St. Louis and beyond throughout the rest of the 2026 season. We are back with another interview on the Unsung Heroes. Joining me this week on the show after the Detroit Supercross, he was representing for Triumph out on the track. Of course, the factory team, no 250 presence in Detroit after Jalek Swoll's injury. Gage Linville will be back and racing for the team starting this weekend in St. Louis. But the only privateer Triumph in the 250 East division pulled through when it mattered most for the brand. 16th place on Saturday night in Detroit, and more importantly, his first main event in almost 2 years, a huge step back in the right direction. Joining me, the number 174, Luca Marsalisi, is on the Unsung Heroes. What's up, man? Congrats on getting back in the main event, and I'm sure you had to feel a little bit of pressure weighed off of your shoulders.
Oh yeah, that was definitely got the monkey off the back. Like you said, it's been a little over 2 years. Yeah, that one definitely probably felt better than any of the other ones I've made. So
We'll go ahead and talk about your weekend right off the bat. Of course, there are plenty of fast privateers and factory racers alike in the 250 division, but you didn't even have to worry about the LCQ and the stress this weekend. You rode it straight through your heat race, then saw it in the main event, 16th place, and your return. Take me through the day, talk about the track. It was very tricky in some places. Of course, the whoops caught a bunch of people off guard. You had that half whoop at the end that caught some people, sent them sideways, sent them to the ground. But you survived all the chaos, 16th place finish, a solid effort, and finally back in the main event picture. So tell me about your weekend in Detroit and how things unfolded.
yeah, like you said, it's a big step forward for me. Yeah, I always loved Detroit. I'm not sure if it's just the dirt or I'm not too sure what it is, but I've had my best result there in the past, in 2024. But yeah, day started off pretty good. Like 25th or 26th. Qualifying's not really my strong suit, but we're working on it. And yeah, honestly, just got off to a really good start in the heat race. I think I was maybe fifth coming around the first corner, so it's a lot easier to run that pace when you can latch on to those guys. Like I had Casey right in front of me, and I pretty much stayed with him the whole heat race till I think maybe like 2 to go. And then yeah, Joe passed me in the whoops, and then Henry got me. So I think I ended up P7. Just really solid heat race. That was probably the best I've ridden in a heat race. I think I finally showed some of the speed that I have during the week, and translated it to the heat race for sure. So I felt really good in the heat, solid laps, and then yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I rode pretty tight in the main. Haven't really ridden a track that broken down in a long time, and got to me a little bit. But like you said, I kind of stayed out of the carnage and kind of rode it into P16. Wish I could have had a little bit more. I think I could have been around that 12 to 14 kind of mark with those guys. But is what it is, just progress. And yeah, it was definitely a step in the right direction. So it was good.
Of course, as we mentioned, the last couple years have been a struggle at times, and I know you took some time off last summer to really dial things in. You've joined this Triumph of Harrisonburg team. I mean, this is a little bit of a two-part question, but talk me through some of the struggles and just trying to keep your head down, keep working, keep grinding, and then finally getting back in the main event. And also talk a little bit about how you got started with the Triumph of Harrisonburg crew. I know you've been on a couple teams in the past, but now working together with a new. It's a smaller organization, and if I'm not mistaken, I feel like they helped out Brighton Carroll a couple years ago, Budds Creek, for motocross. But talk about helping build a small program over there, and then just the last couple years and working to get back to the point where you're finally back in the mix and back scoring points?
Yeah, I guess just go a little bit back. Yeah, it's like you said, it's been kind of a rough, year and a half, 2 years. I rode for Tylube in 2024, and then I rode for them in 25 as well. And I only did, I think, 3 rounds last year. And yeah, we decided to part ways. I wish I could stop lie and say it was mutual, but more so on their end. But it is what it is. And yeah, I took about 7, 8 months off the bike after that, and I actually moved to Minnesota with my fiance and went and got a normal job. I was doing some landscaping. Honestly, wasn't even sure if I was even going to get the chance to race again or even ride again. I had some shoulder stuff going on that I was trying to figure out. So honestly, just took a step away from racing in general. And yeah, like I said, I wasn't too sure. And luckily, Tyler at Triumph Harrisonburg kind of hit me up. And yeah, he just kind of told me his idea of wanting to do some supercrosses and do it out of a van and all that stuff. And we kind of talked about it all summer and got a pretty good game plan. Yeah, they honestly, it's been great, honestly. He actually used to train at MTF when he used to ride back in the day. So that's kind of how we got linked up. He texted my trainer, Brian Johnson, and we got linked up through Brian and just kind of talked all summer, and we just ironed everything out, and it's honestly been amazing. Like you said, I've been on some teams, through my amateur career and my pro career, and I've honestly never been happier. But yeah, like you said, it's a privateer effort, so it's a little bit tougher, but Tyler, and everyone at Triumph Harrisonburg's honestly they've been killing it. They've been doing a great job giving me pretty much all the support I could ever need, to go do each weekend. And they take my bikes and everything I need every weekend. They're grinding. So I'm super blessed and super grateful for them.
I talked a little bit earlier in the season after Anaheim won with Brandon Ray, who, like you, went from a Honda privateer effort to doing his own thing aboard a Triumph. And I talked with him about some of the bike changes. And honestly, a question I love to ask people, when you first got on the Triumph machine and started riding on the black motorcycle, what things jumped off the page to you really quick? Because I'm sure I know you had a couple years on the Honda, a couple years on Yamaha before that. So when you were able to try out the Triumph for the first time, was there anything that really opened your eyes as different sort of to the bikes you've been on the past few years?
Yeah. It was a little different for me just because, like I said, I took about 8 months off. Like I didn't even touch a dirt bike. So I was pretty rusty. But, the first week that I was back riding, I was literally just on a stock bike with just some outdoor suspension that I had done up. And I honestly couldn't believe how well the bike turned. It was pretty unreal. And that was on outdoors with not even like anything that I kind of wanted on my bike. And it was turning amazing. It was really planted. And yeah, that was honestly the biggest thing that stood out to me. And just for a stock bike, the power was honestly pretty surprising as well. Like I said, I've ridden a lot of bikes over the years, and I've probably never been happier with a setup than I have now.
Throughout the year, you've been steadily growing, but it seems like this year, especially for some of the 250 East guys, I mean, you have a great deal of privateers. You got some rookies out there trying to make a name for themselves. But it seems like this year's 250 East schedule is really stacked. You only had a couple standalone normal level rounds at the start of the season. Then you had the Triple Crown and Indy, a week off. You have an East-West showdown in Birmingham, another normal round at Detroit. Now you're getting ready to do another showdown in St. Louis. It seems like it's been a very stacked and challenging schedule for privateers this year in the 250 East division. Talk about that a little bit. I don't know how it compares to some of the other seasons. I'm pretty sure the West Series has had a couple Triple Crown rounds compared to the East in the past few years, but how did it feel for you getting back to racing and instead of having a few rounds to warm up and really get in the swing of things, the standard format, you're going and doing Triple Crowns and then all of a sudden you're competing in East-West. So how much of a challenge was it for you to try to keep getting better and build the program when you're changing formats every single weekend?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit difficult. I mean, Triple Crowns and East West are always tough, I think, for a majority of, you know, anyone. It's definitely weird. Like you said, it kind of takes away from, trying to get into that flow those first couple of rounds with the normal races. But everyone's got to do them. I actually was setting up to be a pretty good night in Indy for that Triple Crown. I think I was like half a second off of qualifying straight into Triple Crown, which was a little bit of a bummer. And then I think I was in fifth in the LCQ, about a pass for fourth, and then I landed on Noah Viney, unfortunately, and went down. So that kind of ended my night there. And then I honestly just struggled in Birmingham. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind them. It is what it is. But I definitely, want to keep the momentum rolling after this weekend. And I think the goal for the weekend, just be the top 20 and get in a night show and see what we can do and mix it up with the East-West guys, hopefully. And definitely, I think Ohio is our next Triple Crown. And I've never made a Triple Crown. And I think that format will suit me a bit better just because I know for me, the more times that I get out on the track, the more comfortable I get. And yeah, I'd be curious to see how I could do at a Triple Crown. So just, keep working with everyone at MCF and Triumph of Harrisonburg. And I think we're going to have a pretty good weekend.
I know when you broke out a few years ago, of course, you had a national number in 2024, I believe. You had some really solid rides on the 450 for Rock River Yamaha Summer 23. Heard some people referring to you as the Hitman, and I'm interested, where did that nickname come from and that moniker? Because you think Hitman, like I think of the Hitman video games, or I think of Bret Hart, the legendary WWE wrestler, but did you get this because you were collecting money on some of these races, or were you just putting hits out on people and, kind of taking them down?
No, definitely wasn't for me taking people out. I actually got it as an amateur, my B class year. There's an announcer, they call him Megawatt, and we were at a regional full Loretta's at High Point, and I'm not super pumped how I got it, but I guess it's a cool nickname. I guess he gave it to me because, for one, I'm Italian. This is what I was told anyways. So I guess because I'm Italian, and then at the regional, I pretty much started dead last every moto. And I think I won every moto that weekend, maybe besides one or two. So I guess he just did it like some way, I guess, if you were in front of me, that I was going to get you or whatever. And then it just kept kind of going and going. Like that year at Loretta's in 450B, I started, I think, like 30th first moto, and then I came back and won that moto. So I kind of had a bad trait of starting really far back and then working my way up. So that's kind of how it came to be. And then Megawatt announces a lot of the outdoors too. And in 2023, I did 450 outdoors, and I kind of had that same trait going to where I got bad starts and worked my way inside the top 20 pretty much every weekend. So I'm not super proud of how I got the nickname, but I guess it's a pretty cool nickname as far as nickname goes.
Hey, I feel like we're lacking a little bit in creativity for some of the nicknames nowadays, so it's definitely one of the more
Yeah.
unique ones. You got so many guys with their initials, but speaking of the outdoors, of course, I mentioned you had some really solid results out there before. With this new program, are you guys going to be expanding into the outdoors and tackling some of the nationals this summer, or what are your plans throughout the rest of the year?
Yeah, we're definitely, we've talked about it for sure. Tyler and everyone at Triumph Harrisonburg, they want to do at least 3 outdoors for sure. Budds Creek, and then I think I'm gonna maybe see if I can kind of pick which ones I want to go to, just because I love Redbud. I've had my best outdoor finish there. Millville I really like, and Unadilla is a home race for me. So yeah, I think we're gonna try and get it done if we can figure out the logistics and everything. And yeah, we'll be riding the Triumph 450 if we do it. So it'd be pretty cool.
One last quick question before you go. Of course, you've been steadily improving, showed some speed like you mentioned in Indianapolis, and of course back in the main event in Detroit. Through the rest of the Supercross season, what is one goal you're really looking forward to checking off the box? Of course, you got back in the main event. Anything else that you're really looking forward and have your sights set on before the season ends and turns into the outdoors?
Yeah, I mean, as riders, we all have little personal goals in our head, and we always want to be better. And like I said, it was sick to make the main this weekend again. Big monkey off my back. Didn't really perform the way I did I wanted to do in the main event. But just the next few rounds, or just the rest of the rounds, honestly, I just want to put myself in good positions like I did in the heat race in Detroit. And I do truly feel if I'm up there on the start, I can, like I said, be from that 12 to 15 range if I ride like I know I can. And yeah, that's honestly just the goal, is just main events, because if I'm in the main event, I think I'm going to surprise some people if I start clicking them off. So
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Luca Marsalisi on the Unsung Heroes. Real quick, feel free to shout out some of your sponsors. I know Triumph of Harrisonburg, of course, helping you out big time this year, but shout out some of your other sponsors as well. Give them a little bit of a thank you for helping get you to the races each and every weekend.
yeah, for sure. Like you said, Triumph, Harrisonburg, Tyler, Chris, everyone over there, they've absolutely killed it with our program this year. I'm so grateful for them. John at Horsepower Solutions, he does my motors. That thing is a rocket ship. Everyone at MTF, Brian, Colleen, just always keeping it going with me. And, Get, Dan Truman, Yoshimura, O'Neill, 60, Decal Works, Air Breathing, Metal Tech, Race Tech, Works Connection, and the Hilo, and anyone else I forgot. It's a long list that everyone makes this possible, and I'm truly grateful for everyone. And yeah, I appreciate the interview, man.
Of course, thank you for taking the time, and best of luck to you throughout the rest of the Supercross season and into the summer. Thanks, man.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you once again to Luca Marsalisi for the time. Go follow him on Instagram. Show him some love. Marsalisi_174. He will be tackling the rest of the 250 East Championship and Select Outdoors aboard that Triumph of Harrisonburg machine. Best of luck to him throughout the rest of the season. And of course, big thank you to Henry Miller as well for his time on this week's edition of the Unsung Heroes. After his career best finish for the MX6 Racing Kawasaki team, both Henry and Luca will be in action this weekend in St. Louis and through the rest of the 250 East season. So go find them in the pits if you're able to attend one of the last few rounds of Supercross. And now we'll go ahead and hop into the rest of the 250 East division from Saturday night at Detroit. It was Cody Schock leading the way aboard his Club MX Yamaha. Not really surprising there. Almost a second podium for Cody. He was ripping on Saturday night. Close call with his teammate, of course. I'm sure everybody has seen the clip, whether during the race or on social media, of his near disaster tangle with Devin Simonson that sent Devin across the track doing transfers Kevin Windham style. Thankfully, nobody crashed. Devin didn't go down. Nobody hit him as he was cutting through traffic. Cody continued on, and he actually chased down, caught, and passed Joe Shimoda during the race to take third. Of course, Shimoda, the defending 250 SMX champion, but it was a wild ride in the whoops that sent Cody back to fourth. He hit the ground, crashed pretty good into some of those protective blocks by the finish line and by the mechanics, or not the mechanics area, the tower for the team managers. Schock got back up. He only lost one spot in the crash, thankfully. Fourth place, his best run for the year, but I'm sure he's a little disappointed knowing that he left a podium on the board. Ninth place, Derek Kelly, his teammate, so a double top 10 for the MX6 crew. Derek won the LCQ. He was fast all day, top 10 in qualifying, but unfortunately went down in his heat race, and that sent him to the LCQ, but he took care of business, took the lead early from Marcus Phelps, set sail for the victory, and then in ninth place in the main event, his best run of the year so far. Good weekend for DK, apart from being in the LCQ. Just ahead of Derek in eighth place, another Kawasaki privateer in the 250 class. Somebody that actually changed scenery a little bit. He's been doing his own effort aboard a Yamaha for the first part of the season, but now Kyle Peters is a part of the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki crew. Of course, Peters is no stranger to the Kawasaki machines. He raced for Bud Racing in World Supercross, of course, a French-based Kawasaki organization, and performed pretty well at times with them. Of course, there was a lot of competition in that class. Max Anstey, Shane McElrath, Cody Schock, Enzo Lopes, Cullen Park, just to name a few. But now Peters is the third man on the 250 East squad for PRMX. Of course, Liam Aloff, the rookie, just came back a few weeks ago, but got injured once again, unfortunately. Bummer to see Aloff out of action, but Peters joining Hamden Hudson, the second-year pro, and the Australian Luke Clout with the PRMX team. And it was a great weekend for Kyle Peters. He was solid in qualifying, and then he also transferred through the LCQ. So 2 top 10 finishers coming out of the LCQ. But it was a great ride for Kyle to get up to 8th position, a strong debut with his new colors for PRMX. And then rounding out your top 10, a former PRMX racer. He's competing with the Storm Lake Honda Buddy Brooks Racing crew. Another guy we've had on here in the past, of course, we had Derek Kelly after Arlington. We had Luke Neeson after Indianapolis, and a top 10 finish, the third 10th place finish of Luke's 250 Supercross career, matching his career best. And he's still a little banged up. Shoulders are hurting him, but he put it out there. Top 10 finish, a great run for the number 95 and the first Storm Lake Honda top 10 of the season. They've had some good rides with both Luke and Isaiah Clark, and it was Luke carrying the flag. Great run for the North Carolina native. 10th place, Luke Neese. Great job. Speaking of North Carolina and Hondas, the Phoenix Racing Honda team, shout out to Evan Ferry, man. It was a rough week last weekend in Birmingham. Of course, he got that controversial penalty after he took down Pierce Brown in the heat race, went into the negatives in terms of season points. But guess what? Evan fixed that. He was fast in qualifying, his career best effort, top 10 overall during the afternoon sessions, solid heat race, put it right in the main event, and then in the main, he had a close call, went down almost. He was hanging off the back of the bike, looked like he was trying to do a Superman down the racetrack, but P11 for Evan Ferry, a huge step forward considering his previous best this season was a 19th. Hopefully Evan can continue building momentum. Of course, he's a talented kid. He's went through a lot health-wise the last couple years, struggling with some injuries, but an 11th place run, a huge step forward and a big sign of progress for Evan Ferry. Awesome to see him back in the mix and running very competitively in Detroit, of course, the site of his professional debut a couple years ago. Detroit was a home race for several competitors in the field. Marshall Welton, one of them, the third member of the MX6 Racing Kawasaki team, 12th place finish for Marsh in his home event. He was running in the top 10 late in the going, but unfortunately, a small crash late dropped him a couple positions, but still another step forward for him as well. All of the MX6 guys in the top 15, huge weekend for that program. Just behind him, once again, more Kawasaki's. Is a very green weekend in Detroit. Luke Clout back in the main event, another one of the PRMX Kawasaki guys. It's been a weird season. He's shown a lot of pace at times in qualifying, but then it seems like he's just a little bit off his usual level. I would think he would be a top 10 guy considering what he's been able to accomplish in some of the Australian Supercross events. World Supercross, of course, he was on a 450, so maybe a little bit of an unfair comparison. He ripped on the 250 for Bud Racing in Paris. So a little weird to see him a bit further off of where I expected, but 13th for Luke, a little bit better this weekend. He was back in the main after missing the showdown in Birmingham. Speaking of missing Birmingham, albeit missing because he was out of action due to rehabbing from injury, Gavin Towers was back, another one of the Phoenix Racing Honda riders, unfortunately down to 2 after Cullen Park's Supercross season-ending injury, but Towers was back for a 14th place finish, struggling a little bit at times due to his shoulder injury. Of course, he got landed on, if you remember, at Indianapolis by Seth Hamaker. But Tower said that he was very fortunate to even be there and be on the line. So top 15 in Ford Field, not too bad for the second-year pro. Hopefully, Gavin can continue to recover, continue to regroup, and get back to 100% before the end of the season and before we switch into the Pro Motocross Championship. And then it was another Honda right behind him, Jeremy Hand, the Ohio native, representing Valley Automotive Group. Jeremy was 8th in the first 250 East heat race, but he was dropped from his position transferring through. He jumped on a red cross flag, and the AMA handed Jeremy a 2-position penalty for the cut. This moved Landon Hartz from 9th to 8th and moved Luke Clout, who we just talked about, into the main event. So Cloud avoided the LCQ, but luckily for Jeremy, he got the job done. Solid ride in the LCQ, and then 15th in the main event. Of course, a guy who has plenty of Supercross experience over the last several years. Another top 15 for the number 87. 17th place finish, career best for one of the younger racers in the class, CJ Bernard on the Gizmo Racing Yamaha. CJ, the only representative for the team this weekend in the 250 ranks. Valentin Guillot and Bryce Shelley both out with injury, but CJ put it in the main event and secured his career best so far in Supercross, a 17th place run for the number 775. The last two privateers in the 250 East main event on the leaderboard were also Yamaha riders, but unfortunately dropped out of the race early. Of course, Devin Simonson, one of those on the Club MX Yamaha. We mentioned a little bit about his wild ride before. He had settled in, was still in a top 10 position, but unfortunately he was another victim of the whoops, I believe, and Devin went down, ended up 19th. Unfortunate end to his night, but Devin is continuing to impress speed-wise this season, and he was really fast in qualifying as well, was third for a good portion of the afternoon. So a lot of speed and a lot of pace for the number 89 this year. And then finishing last in the main event, his second career main event, the rookie Landon Hartz from Alabama on the EBR Performance Family Power Sports Yamaha machine. Unfortunately, somebody clipped Landon on the opening lap, and his knuckles and fingers were bruised. Dislocated knuckles. He's going to get things evaluated before he comes back. Great to see Landon in the main event again. He's been pretty solid this year. Of course, a privateer rookie, but he's made a couple starts. He's learning some things, and I think Landon could have a bright future in the sport and continue to improve over the next few years, but hopefully he'll be all right. Maybe he elects to skip this weekend in St. Louis because it is a showdown, but hopefully we see him back on track soon. Moving to a few notes about some racers who just missed the main event in the 250 class. The first guy on the outside looking in was John Short, the number 90, one spot shy, at least as a consolation prize before the LCQ. He was awarded the Rocky Mountain ATVMC privateer payout, so $1,000 extra bucks going to the Texan there. John, I would guess, will be back in the 450 ranks for St. Louis. He rode his 250 in the 450 class at Birmingham during the first East-West Showdown, now moving to St. Louis. I expect Short to do the same. One spot shy, unfortunately, for John. Then you look at some of the other teams and riders who missed out. The Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot WMR KTM team, it's been a rough season for them, although they did just send a little bit of a bittersweet goodbye. But Gage Linville, their guy who has been the team leader over the past few years, to factory triumph. Chase Kessler, Marcus Phelps were improved on Saturday. Both of them qualified inside the top 20. Marcus ripped the whole shot in the LCQ, but unfortunately clipped a jump at the end of a rhythm lane, went down and out of the LCQ. Jace was a couple spots shy. Hopefully we can see one of the Dirt Bike Depot fellas back in the main event soon, and they should be back to a four-man roster. Of course, they got Anthony Rodriguez now in the 450 class. Jackson Driscoll should be returning from his shoulder injury to make a full tent over at the DBD program. And speaking of small teams who have risen up in the last few years and started to make a name for themselves, Wildcat Race Team Gas Gas, that's right, we still have a Gas Gas organization in the pits. Of course, Lorenzo Lacurcio, team owner / rider. Lorenzo currently injured. That's why you haven't seen the Venezuelan out on the track yet this year. But there is a rookie competing for the Wildcat organization, Braden Aylerman, a New York native. He just turned pro at Daytona at the second East Coast Supercross round. It was his first night show, so some progress in Detroit for the number 809 aboard the Gas machine. Hopefully Aylerman can continue to hone his skills and get a little bit better as the year moves on. Now moving into the 450 class, some returning racers in the factory camps this weekend, so it was a little bit harder for privateers to qualify and non-factory racers, but two of them ended the night inside the top 10 Justin Hill leading the way aboard his Monster Energy Team Tedder KTM machine. Justin was strong in qualifying, was in the top 5 for the majority of the afternoon, ended up 6th overall in the afternoon sessions. And then during the main event, not a great start from the number 46, but he was able to claw his way up from 18th around the first corner to 12th at the green flag, and then earned a few more spots. 8th place, best finish of the season so far for Justin, and now he is inside the top 10 in points. Just behind him, the number 17, Joey Savacci, his former teammate from Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Joey was back after taking a week off to rehab from his foot injury at Indianapolis. Wasn't at 100%, but he still put in a valiant effort. 9th place run for Joey, 7th in points. He's had a great season so far, and I think that's a pretty good sign when you can come back first race from an injury and put her inside the top 10. A couple spots back, you have his teammate, Christian Craig, in the Quad Lock Honda camp. Christian, 12th place. Unfortunately, he was collected by Hunter Lawrence when Hunter was a lap down and stalled his bike, went down, whatever happened there. Craig was collected. 12th place finish for Christian. On the bright side, a step further from his 2 crash night in Birmingham. And then the third of the 3 Quad Lock Honda riders finished in the 14th position, that being Shane McElrath. Unfortunately, Shane McElrath and Cole Thompson, I'll also mention Cole Thompson in here because unfortunately he pulled off a little bit early. But man, you have 2 new victims of Vince Freezy. Poor Shane, poor Cole, wrong place, wrong time. I saw the video. It was a very low quality social media video, but Freezy just drove it in a corner, took out McElrath's front wheel, and Thompson was battling with Shane, and he was so close that he also was taken down in the incident. And then both men dropped from about 15th, 16th position, somewhere around there, to 21st and 22nd, respectively. As I mentioned, Cole was in 22nd for a long time, and then he ended up pulling off a little bit early. But Shane clawed his way back up to 14th. At least he was able to salvage a top 15 out of things. But still, another new victim of Vince Freezy's shenanigans, and that's twice now in the last 3 races. If you think about Cole Thompson when he got landed on by Hunter Lawrence, twice in the last few weeks that Cole Thompson has been a victim of Vince Freezy, a once mid-card heel turning into a sympathetic babyface, it seems. Don't know how many wrestling fans listen to this and will get my reference, but Cole Thompson, he's been at the brunt of some of these Vincidents, you could say. Speaking of former Vincident victims, you have in 15th position Mitchell Harrison, Money Mitch, 11 for 11, and his home race of Detroit, of course, another Michigan native, 15th, matching his season best finish that he set in Birmingham. Solid night for Mitchell. And then Vince finished 16th. And of course, earlier in the year when he punted Mitchell Harrison for 19th at Anaheim 2, Vince was docked 5 championship points for aggressive riding. This time, he took down both McElrath and Thompson, so guess what? The AMA took away 10 points for his aggressive riding. So Vince Freezy, it doesn't make a difference right now in terms of position, but Vince should have 61 points to his credit this year. Instead, he has 46 because of the typical Vince shenanigans. A few spots back, rounding out the privateers. Of course, I mentioned Cole Thompson, who was in last position. But 19th place, you had Kevin Morans for the KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM crew. Kevin, the only rider from the organization to make the main this week. Unfortunately, Grant Harlan missed the cut, struggled in Ford Field. But Kevin was back in the main event, and much cleaner in the main event. Of course, he had that wild ride over the finish line in Birmingham, but kept it upright, stayed on 2 wheels, although Kevin also exited the night with negative points because he was docked 5 points for jumping on a Red Cross flag. Along with Kevin, Colt Nichols and Garrett Marchbanks also received penalties, so Kevin wasn't the only one targeted in this. 19th place, though, Kevin in another main event. And behind him, 20th place, the last finisher of the Privateers, Tristan Lane for the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program. 6 main events so far this year. Tristan has been pretty quiet, but he's been qualifying at a fairly consistent rate over the last several rounds. And he missed the cut at Birmingham, rebounded by putting her back in the show in Detroit. Good job, Tristan. Great to see him back in the main event. And a 20th place run for the number 711. Now, a few notes from outside the main event, and unfortunately, it was another one of the McGinley Clinic racers who just missed the cut for the main. Zach Williams on the number 874 Honda, the Minnesota native. He was so close once again at Arlington. Just 2 turns before the finish, Josh Cartwright passed him, moved him out of the way to take the final transfer spot. And this time, Justin Bogle, a former 250 Supercross champion, tracks down Williams late. Zach pulled the whole shot, was shuffled back by a couple of those fast guys like Garrett Marchbanks, Kevin Moran's, Tristan Lane, and he was in 4th for a little bit, but Bogle denying Zach Williams of his first 450 main event. Zach, unfortunately, he's right there. He's on the cusp at a couple of these rounds. Maybe we'll get to see him compete in his first career Premier Class main event, of course. For most of his career, Zach was a 250 division racer. I mentioned the Rocky Mountain ATV MC Privateer payout recipient in the 250 class. In the 450 class, it was Dayton Briggs for the Moto Whips Racing team. Dayton on a white KTM, a legitimate white KTM, not a Husqvarna. But Dayton has recently returned from a hand injury. He got to pocket $1,000 from the Rocky Mountain ATV MC crew. And of course, Briggs and Lane Shaw competing for that Moto Whips team. Logan Leitzel was a little bit faster this weekend. One of the funniest privateers in the pits. Racing with support from Torchbearer Sauces Pro Tech gear aboard a Kawasaki. Logan was 26th in qualifying, a little bit closer to some of those guys at the edge of the main event, but unfortunately, his night was undone kind of early in the heat race. He comes around the first corner. He's up inside the top 10. Looked like he could maybe fight for a transfer position for a little bit, but he got clipped by Garrett Marchbanks, went down pretty hard. Unfortunate for Logan Leitzel when he showed so much promise throughout the day. Hopefully we can see him continue to build and grow throughout the rest of the season as well. And there was a gas in the 450 class this weekend. Not only that, a 350. It's a unicorn, basically. Preston Massiangelo, the Canadian, of course, a 250 West regular for the Next Level Racing team. Preston decided to hop into the 450 ranks aboard a gas 350 this weekend. What would be his home race? He is an Ontario native, and Preston put her in the night show aboard his gas 350, and he'll be back in his usual 250 division this weekend, of course. The next East-West Showdown is coming up this weekend from St. Louis, the Dome at America's Center. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Episode number 11 of the Unsung Heroes of the 2026 season, recapping the top privateers from the Detroit Supercross. Thank you once again to MX6 Racing Kawasaki's Henry Miller, to Triumph of Harrisonburg's Luca Marsalisi for their time on the program this week. Hope you have a great Easter weekend. Enjoy time with your family, stay safe, and enjoy the racing from St. Louis this weekend. I am Trey Stire. Thank you for listening, and enjoy your next week. We'll see you after St. Louis.